Daily News Editorial Board would like to welcome Randall Brodersen, who's running for District 4 in the Estero Village Council race. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
In order to get us started here, Randall, if you would just sort of take the first couple of minutes here and tell us a little bit about your background and how long you've been in Estero, your career, and those kinds of things.
Sure. I was born and raised in northern Illinois, and I worked for a company up there. I married my wife up there in Illinois, first of all, I should say. We've been married 40 years. And I worked for a company up there called Hewitt Associates. They were a consulting actuarial firm. In my position up there, I was a procurement manager / agent. I was the only purchasing person in the company there. Started with 200 people and left there, and there were 1,200 people. So I gained a lot of experience in negotiating, which I'm hoping to bring forward to the council in the future with negotiating with the county, private firms, whatever it might happen to be. In 1989, we moved down here to Florida and moved into Punta Gorda and lived there for 25 years. First job I landed there in Punta Gorda was with the city of Punta Gorda. And it was in the Public Works Division, and working my way up a little bit, I managed to get up into the senior project manager position. And following that, I was supervisor overseeing canal maintenance, a particular district that they have in Punta Gorda. I had to set and maintain a $3.5 million budget for canal maintenance. In my tenure there as senior project manager, I had the opportunity to work with a lot of developers on projects, ongoing capital improvement projects, working with them. I handled all the invoicing and things of that sort that came in from the developer. I also wrote the first hurricane debris management program approved by FEMA for the city of Punta Gorda. I was pretty proud of that. I oversaw the cleanup after Hurricane Charlie in '04. I was the city liaison working with the developer, and at the beginning it was a nightmare, as you well know, and it was quite the task, but we did it in 3.5 months. I also wrote the let me back up a second. I was on the initial team with Florida Department of Environmental Protection in initializing their Stormwater Erosion Sedimentation Control Operator Certification Program.
Okay.
It's a mouthful. Basically what it meant was the team that we were together with DEP and initializing all this thing with testing and all that, certified people that wanted to become certified in that program for stormwater. It was protecting our waters, our water bodies, to keep pollutants from going in there. What's right, what's wrong, what should you do, what shouldn't you do, and things of that sort. I was pretty proud of that, being involved in that for the certification program. I also had a lot of involvement with the different divisions and departments within the city. Being in Public Works where I was involved working with, on a number of different times, with Parks and Grounds. I was in engineering basically is where I was stationed, but them, and then also Public Works Administration, right-of-ways, Water Department, any of the utilities. And then that's just Public Works, but I also had a lot of involvement working with Planning and Zoning, Building Department. We would review plans for capital improvement projects on the Public Works end of side of things. So we'd be able to look at the plans as they're being forwarded, and if there were things that we saw that didn't fit into the bailiwick there, or what needed to be correct, then we would advise the contractor to make changes and so forth. So I had a lot of involvement with the different departments there. In 2013, I decided to take retirement. My birthday was June 6th, I retired June 7th, and we moved into Country Creek on June 8th. It was a busy 3 days. Once we moved into Country Creek, I had been asked after a couple of months in there, about 6 months afterwards, if I would run for the master board in there. And I said, okay, let me give it a little thought, and I did, and decided, okay, I'll campaign and give it a try. And lo and behold, I was elected to the master board of Country Creek. and I'm still serving on the master board at this time.
What drew you to Estero from Punta Gorda?
Basically, my wife. I retired, as I said, and my wife had the opportunity to work for what was that time in '89 or in 2013. She had a client. She worked for a CPA firm in Punta Gorda, and they had a client that was located down here in Bonita Springs, and in fact, the Citrus Park RV Resort. And my wife is an accountant, and the lady that was doing the accounting there for their department was going to retire. And she thought it's better than what she was doing, because working for a CPA firm, you never get to enjoy the best time of the year down here in Florida in January, February, and March. Even though we have all the snowbirds, it's the best time of the year for doing anything outdoors and enjoying it. Otherwise, you got the heat in the summer. So we talked it over and decided, okay, let's try it. So she called them up, and they thought they won the lottery. They were happy as all get out to have her working there. So on that note, we decided, okay, we had the house on the market, put it on there, and came down here, and best friends of ours lived in Country Creek, and they were our neighbors up north in Illinois, ironically, and she said, when you come down this way, come and see me. She said, you don't need to look any further. It's the best bang for the buck here in Country Creek. And that's kind of like the short of it.
From your experience working for the city and dealing with the city council in Punta Gorda, what do you gain from that experience that would help you serving on the village council here? I realized the different things that the council asks. It depends on the subject matter, naturally. I would go in and I would give presentations to the council. The council is just like anybody else. You've got your ordinances that you have to abide by. And I feel that working with the council on different things, I've gained the experience to know some of the things they ask for on particular topics. On a project, if something doesn't meet right with the eye and they ask it, you usually come up with the answer as to why that you have done so, why you made that decision on something. You've seen how a city runs with a lot of employees. This particular one isn't intended to have a lot of employees starting out. Is that something that you think is a mistake, or are you on board with that?
You mean as far as we starting on government light?
Yeah.
No, I think it's a good way to go. Personally, you can't start out running. You can't do it. You don't have the money in the budget for something like that, and it's in the charter to start out with government light, and there's nothing wrong with that. Contracting with the county, private firm, whoever it might happen to be, for the best service for the best dollar. So I'm all in favor of government light.
What will be the first 2 or 3 things the new city council needs to do?
I would think that one of the first things they're going to have to do is, well, first they're going to have to take care of the ordinances, make sure that all the ordinances are in place that they want to adhere to for the village of Estero. They also need to have a planning and zoning board, and possibly building, for permitting. So we gain control of the permitting and what's going on in the village of Estero. We want to have control over the aesthetics. We want Estero to continue with the high set of standards that they have for their buildings and the way it looks right now. And if we don't grab hold of that right off the bat, and it's up to the county, we have to have it. So the more we can get that way in the planning, zoning, and the permitting, and it'll be better for the city.
Is that a department that the city needs to set up, or can that be done through an advisory board or volunteer board?
You can start with an advisory board. I believe they have ECC, or the ECPP. That derivative thereof could become, instead of it can be an advisory committee, or we can make it a board down the line, however that works out. But I think that the council members have to rely on citizen input that comes to the various committees or boards, whatever it might happen to be, pertaining to a particular project that might be going on or a concern of the citizen. The advisory committees are the voice. They're the ones that are going to address the council on different topics, whatever might happen to be. The residents aren't always going to call the council members. They're going to attend these different advisory committees or board meetings and voice their opinion on it. Those comments then will be forwarded over to council down the line.
As far as a interim city manager, or waiting and going for a full-time full-time permanent city manager. Should there be an interim, should we go right for the longer appointment? And what would you be looking for in a city manager?
I think that to start out with, I think that we do need to have an interim city manager. We have to have somebody in place that can move forward with things, with the contracts and everything. He's the person that's going to be the one person maybe dealing with the county on our behalf, or a private firm. We have to have somebody in there. If he does an excellent job, maybe that'll be a position that'll work out down the line if the individual wants to stay there. Maybe he just wants it part-time to stay there to get the ball rolling, so to speak, and then give the council time to interview with other people. But you have to have your city manager, your city clerk, a finance person, assistant to the city manager, or maybe a receptionist, about 5 people there. I think that would suffice.
In characteristics, what would a good city manager bring to the table? What are the characteristics you're looking for?
One is good listening skills, and I take that from experience in working with the city manager of Punta Gorda, Howard Koenig. My hat's off to that gentleman up there in Punta Gorda. He's one of the best city managers that Punta Gorda's ever had. And he has a very unique way when he's in a meeting. People can be discussing different items, and he will sit there and not say too much until the end. And then at the end, because he's taken everything, and he'll say, okay, I'm going to get this straight now. You're going to do this. You're going to handle that. And he goes around the table. So he's a good listener, and I think that's very important. You have to have the knowledge of how a municipality works. You want to be open to the public. Your door's always open. You know, there's different city managers that they're not open to the public, to accepting comments or phone calls and things like that. I think they need to be open. But the biggest thing is they have to have the understanding working of a municipality. And that includes everything from ordinances to sunshine laws to all that. Sunshine law is very important.
In that case, would Florida experience be sort of a prerequisite in your view?
It would help. I don't think that it's. I don't think it would help us to have a city manager from Illinois or New York or somewhere up north come down with the experience there with snow and all that. It's a different animal down here. Not to say to take it away from somebody up there. They're still going to have that experience of government and how to handle different topics. But I feel that it would probably benefit to have a candidate that would be from the Florida area.
The concern we're hearing around town has to do with street lighting and sidewalks, specifically on Estero Parkway.
Okay.
Have you noticed that to be a concern, and if so, what can the city council do about it, given that's a county road?
Sure. I think that first of all, I think that the city council or village council needs to work closely with the county. They need to work closely with DOT, whether it be Lee DOT or Florida DOT, either one, and express the concern over it. We have to have sidewalks in there. We want the village of Estero to be a walkable, bikeable community. We want people to be able to get from their residence, if it be on Estero Parkway, which is poorly lit right now. We want to be able to have people walk over to Walmart if that's where they choose to walk. It just makes for a better community, having walkable, bikeable, bicycle areas like that. But yeah, as far as that's only one of the concern areas that we have right now, is the lighting and everything. But again, working with the county on that. And Metropolitan Planning Organization are very big on that. A lot of times you get funding out of MPO for sidewalks, so I think that having a rep on council that will deal with MPO can't hurt, that's for sure. I used to attend the MPO meetings up in Punta Gorda a lot. And there's funding out there to be had, you just have to know where to go for it.
You mentioned that's one of the concerns. What are some of the others that you...
Another big concern, I feel, is Corkscrew Road by the I-75 interchange. Going in, there's a number of things. One, signage is really terrible over there. Anybody wanting to go northbound when they're traveling eastbound on Corkscrew Road, signage is very confusing right now. And people, the sign says left lane, they stay in the left lane, and all of a sudden there's a turn lane off to the left, and then they realize they should be in the left, they're cutting in, there's accidents. And not only that, I don't know if it's the timing of lights or what the situation is, but now in season, you're gonna have cars backed all the way up to Lowe's, maybe even Three Oaks Parkway, which is ridiculous, you know. I don't know if it's, and I haven't researched it enough yet to know if the lights there are ATMS, if they have cameras on them or not. I know in Charlotte County, all your major intersections we had there, we had cameras on, which are all monitored by Public Works Transportation. And they can view it, and if they saw that backups were coming in certain areas, they could tweak those lights from within their office to say, okay, let's give it a longer green to make a green arrow for a turn or something, and alleviate that. Somebody said they didn't think there were cameras over in that area, and that might be because it's part of the state. It might be FDOT responsibility and not necessarily the county. Because I know we have cameras on some of the other intersections, but I don't think there's any over there. So it's going to be a work in progress. It's going to have to be working county and working FDOT and the village council. We're all going to have to get together and come up with a resolution for that. But that's a major issue right now. There's a lot of accidents happening over there.
Since you arrived in Estero in 2013, have you been active with Estero Council community leaders at all? Have you been
I've gone to once, when I first started down here, no I wasn't, to be very honest with you. I'm not a politician, I never have been. And when they asked me to run for the master board, that started getting me involved a little bit there. And then a short time after that, when I was asked to run for the village council, then I started going to all the meetings that I could, whether it be the planning, zoning, the ECCO, whatever happened. I tried to make as many meetings as I could once I got going on there. But it wasn't something that was in my books. I hadn't been planning this for 10 years to say I'm going to move to Estero and run for council. It just wasn't there.
Do you, from your perceptions and what you've seen in a couple of years here, do you think the ECCL is going to have a lot of influence, too much influence on the new village council?
I think that what the ECCL has done in the past has been remarkable. They're the grassroots of everything, and they're the ones that really got the ball rolling on everything. I feel that the ECCL still being in place, because there are certain people that are on the board right now, on the ECCL committee board, that are now going to be village council people. Those people will be replaced by other citizens to come in. And I believe that the ECCL is a good advisory committee. I think they're going to come up with a lot of good ideas to present to council. They're not going to drive the council. That's not my belief. I believe the council makes their own decisions. But you have to have, as I said before, your committees, advisory boards, to bring input to the council for various items.
Randall, you've talked a little bit about the interrelationship with the county. We see now going on in Lee County where they've reduced the impact fees to 25%. They're looking at going to 45%. Bonita Springs, I think, has kept it at 100%. What's your position in terms of what the village should do on the level of impact fees?
I think that the impact fee should go back to 100%. I don't believe that the residents should have to foot the bill for improvements for infrastructure. I think that the contractor should pay his fair amount, whatever it might happen to be. Road improvements, I believe that when a contractor's, in my feeling, when a contractor is having a development on a major road, whether it be Corkscrew or Three Oaks, wherever, if he frontages on a major road like that, he should be required to do the infrastructure improvements, turn lanes, widening of the road in that section, sidewalks for sure. In Punta Gorda they did that, where if a development came in and it was vacant on both sides, he was required to put sidewalks in front on the roadside there, even if there was nothing on either side, because down the line, guess what? It's going to be there. There's going to be a sidewalk. So put the sidewalks in now, and when somebody builds here, their requirement's going to put. Now the citizens are relieved of that expense to have to do it. Let the contractor do it. Let the developer do it. any changes or any, not changes, any improvements to water sewer lines, part of the infrastructure needed, let the developer take care of that. The village shouldn't have to foot the bill for something like that the developer's gonna make a lot of money on. Let the developer pay for those improvements to go in there, not the residents, not the citizens.
You mentioned a couple of times here you're not a politician. How much of an adjustment do you think it's going to be for you to become one?
That's a good question. I guess you have to come up with a definition of a politician. I guess politician can be termed a person that's involved in politics, which is what government is. I feel that with my knowledge that I have from the city of Punta Gorda and meeting in front of council, other factions, given seminars, whatever it happened to be, PowerPoint presentation, things of that sort, I could get up and I can talk in front of people. I can discuss, as long as you know your subject, I have no issue with it. So as far as becoming a politician, it is what it is. If you become one, you are.
You talked a little bit about your budget experience in Punta Gorda.
Mm-hmm.
If we understand the figures here for this budget, it's about a $3 million surplus
Right.
for a $5 to $6 million budget. Does that seem excessive to you?
I'm sorry, rephrase it. I know we're going to have about a $3.5 million surplus at the end of the year.
Right, and the budget is going to be $5 to $6 million. Does
Okay.
that seem like too much going into a surplus?
Going into surplus? I don't think so. I think that the way the feasibility study was laid out, I think everything should be covered on there. You're going to have some tweaking here and there. You might be a little bit less than that. After we get established, you might find that we have to bring something else on board that's going to cost a little bit more. So maybe $3.5 million won't be there. Maybe it'll be $3 million. But I'm just, you don't know until once you're in and you start going over all the numbers and everything like that. But no, I don't feel it is, not for government light, because most things are going to go right back to the county to start with. For the most part, you have to. You don't want to stop the ball rolling, as I said before. You want to keep the services coming to what we had before. Then it gives you time to look at the job they're doing. Do we need to go out and look at somebody else for renewal down the line? You don't know that.
Is the level of staffing the sheriff's providing now adequate, or do you think the village would want to add, pay to add additional officers?
I believe it's 2 employees for the village of Estero, if I remember that correctly right now. 2 is not very many, but I guess if it isn't broke, don't fix it. If they seem to be doing the job and we have no issues, we have no crime issues right now to deal with, 2 would probably suffice. Maybe in the near future, as the community continues to grow, maybe a 3rd person, a deputy might be needed at that time. I think you have to wait and weigh everything as it goes along.
Randall, you're running against the only woman who came forward to run for office here in this election. How important do you think it is to have the voice of a woman on the council? I think that the people should vote, not necessarily because of being a woman. I believe they should vote for the experience that the individual is bringing to the table with them. And so what is it that you think you can bring to the table that your opponent my 24 years of government experience, knowing how a municipality operates, what's involved in it, of all aspects, and that goes from City Hall down to Public Works, utilities. I mean, like I said before, I've been involved in every one of the different departments and divisions, one way or the other. I know what's involved in it. No, I was not on Rotary as she was. And no, I do not wear a skirt. We're closing in on our 25 minutes allotment here. Is there anything we haven't covered, Randall, that you want to make sure you did cover in this? I just hope that the residents realize the background, my experience that I have, and how I can be
of an assistant to the other council members when they are elected to move forward to bring the village of Estero to life. I think it's a big move. I believe in the village of Estero, the center portion that has been proposed, that we're trying to get over there on via Coconut Point between Williams, 41, Corkscrew, that general area in there. I think that's very important. We need to have a center, an epicenter there of the village, so we can call it the village of Estero, downtown area if you want to call it that. We need to have it walkable, bikeable, so that people can meander around, mixed development, where people can live upstairs, similar to maybe what's at Coconut Point, where people can get down, mill around, they can sit outside, have their lunches or whatever. And then we've got the park right there. Maybe down the line, maybe the train will be reinstituted and have a passenger train come from, say, Punta Gorda down to here and vice versa, back and forth. Right now they go from Fort Myers to Punta Gorda with the murder mystery train. Let's bring it back this way. Let the people come down here and see what the village of Estero is all about. And a nice train station over there, a small, quaint, historic type of design might fit in really well over there with the historic district.
Thank you for joining us today, Randall. Appreciate it.